Hello everyone, it's Kathy here, and today I'm going to share with you how to create a felt heart. In this tutorial I'm going to share with you how I created this heart and how I added beads along the edge. This technique is one that's quite new to me and I thought I'd share it with you today. I used some dies to create my heart. To create the hearts I used a memory box die, and I also used these leaves from a Simon Says Stamp Plush Easter egg die. For the centers, I'm going to use a sticker that you can see. I'm going for black this time, and so everything is going to be slightly different in my color palette. You're going to need some embroidery floss and also some DMC thread and some embroidery needles and scissors and felt. I've got some leaves already die cut, and one thing that's great about these plush dies is they already have the holes pierced when you die cut them, so it really makes it easy for you. So what I've done is I've separated my strands, so I've got 3 strands on my needle, and I'm just going to do a running stitch, which you'll see me do here, and having the holes already in place makes this easy. Sometimes this part can be a little bit challenging because you want your stitches to be as even as possible, but because the die does the work for you, this step is quite simple and fast. So you just go up and down and then fill in the gaps on the way back using the running stitch, and before you know it your first leaf is complete. So to finish off the first leaf, I just flip it over and tie it off on the back, and after I've done that I'll do the same thing for the second leaf, and it creates a really nice finish to this particular leaf and makes it stand out on the heart. So I'm just placing it there just so you can see what they look like. Next I'm going to show you how I created the heart, and I'm using a metal die adapter with my Big Shot, and I'm using one of those scalloped edges to create the flower, and I'm going to create a white felt flower. And I found that when I'm cutting any of my felt that I need to run it through twice, and so I'm just releasing it from the actual felt, and I didn't cut it all the way through. I didn't run it far enough, but that's okay because I don't need the entire length. So I'm just releasing it with some scissors just to take it off from the felt, and you'll just need 5 scallops to create this particular flower. Once you've done that, you just need to snip off what you need, and you need 5 scallops to create this particular flower. Once you've done that and you've got your 5 scallops, you just need to snip it slightly, just so that once we do the next stitch it will form the petals. You'll need to thread up an embroidery needle with your embroidery floss, because we're going to do a running stitch so that we can gather up the felt, and that's going to form the flower. So I'm just threading up my needle and I'm going to tie it off in a knot, and I'll show you what we're going to do. So once you have everything in place, you're going to leave the first scallop and you're going to start your running stitch from the second scallop. And I'm not right next to the edge, but I'm close to the edge, and I'm just doing a running stitch which is just going up and down. I'm not being overly neat because this is not going to be seen, but I'm just trying to make my stitches as even as possible, not too big but of a consistent size, all along the edge. Having an embroidery thread or an upholstery thread is really helpful for this, because we're going to be pulling this and we want a strong thread. The last thing we want is for the thread to break. So I'm near the end now, and you'll see what I'm going to do in the next step is that I'm going to create a loop, so it goes all the way down, and then I'm going to start my running stitch on that final scallop that we left, So it's going to be a continuous loop with the thread. So I've just about finished, and so now I'm going to pull the thread, and that's going to create that loop. So now we can pull everything in tight, and that's going to gather it all up to create the petals of the flower. So you're just going to cinch it in, pull it in tight, and that will form the petals of the flower. And once you're happy with that, you're going to just create some tiny stitches to secure everything into place, and that will hold the shape of the flower. So I'm just doing some tiny stitches going across, and this doesn't have to be overly neat because this is going to be glued onto the actual heart, but we want to make it tight enough so that it still holds its place. And then once you're finished, you're just going to do a tiny knot just to secure everything into place, and then the flower is complete. So it's a really nice flower, it's easy to make. Now we're going to attach everything to the heart using hot glue. So I've placed my leaves into position where I want them, and I'm just adhering them with some hot glue. I'm going to add a center, one of those black dots, and they are just called Bling stickers. And now I'm just going to attach the flower onto the heart, and that step is done. So the decorations are done. So I find that doing that first before actually doing the stitching is helpful. So now I've got a matching thread, and I find on my 12 by 12 craft mat just 3 lengths is enough for me to complete. So I've separated my 6 strands, and I've got 3, and now I'm going to use my embroidery needle to start my blanket stitch. So I start from the top where the indentation of the heart is, and I start from the inside and work my way around, and I go through this hole a few times just to make this part secure. And this is where we're going to start adding the beads. So I've done this a few times, and before I move on to the next hole, I slide a bead onto my needle all the way down, and then I insert my needle through the hole, wrap the yarn around my needle, and then pull it through. And that is all you do, and you get into a rhythm. So before you slide your needle through, slide a bead onto your needle, push it through the hole, wrap the yarn or the thread around your needle, slide that through and pull it through, and that is all you do. The hardest bit is just finding the hole sometimes on the bead. So I'll just do a few more just so that you can see. So slide the bead through, pull it through, insert your needle through, wrap it around the needle, and then pull it through, and this secures the bead into place. I'm using 4mm size beads, and this is the perfect width of the stitch. So you just need to remember that before you insert your needle through the heart to slide a bead. I'm just about to do the peak of the heart, so you do the step as follows, but you go back through the same hole to create the point. So you slide the bead, do the stitch as normal, so this is the second time, and then you rotate it to the direction that you're going in, slide your bead and go back through that same hole. So you go through the hole 3 times, and that creates that nice pointy peak of your heart, and then you keep going as you would normally do in the direction that you are sewing, and you just keep going. Now I'm ready to start placing some filling inside my heart. So I have this tooling one from Kaiser Craft that I like to use. So put in a bit of stuffing in, and I like to place it at the top, and then put in some more, and then what's great about this tool is that it's actually a die, helps you release the dies, but the blunt end is really great in pushing the stuffing in without piercing your sewing. So I like to use that a lot when I'm creating projects like this, because it helps get the stuffing into the places and making sure that you have a really nice evenly distributed heart, so the stuffing goes into the places that you want. I've just about finished adding the beads, so I'll just show you how to finish off your heart. So I've only got a few beads left to do. So this is I think the last bead. So I've come to the end now, so I'm just sliding my hook through the first stitch that I created just to complete the stitching. I'm going back through the original hole just to secure that in place, and then doing a stitch through the back and up through the back again, and then snipping it off, and that's it, it's all done. And that's how you create a felt heart and adding beads to the border.